And I'll try to make it a little bit better in terms of my writing here on this board. A little bit clearer. Okay, so so the annotation will say here, usually use these like quotations like this, and you say extend. Okay, so that's the idea. I'm just trying to make it clear. So we say that adding to the waiting list is an optional thing that may be happening inside the reservation. I'm going to place this as a use case extension on my planning board here for use cases, because I'm thinking that when the adding to the waiting list could be also involved in other use cases. For instance, when flights are canceled or something else is happening. So right now I would like to make this look like adding to the waiting list is an optional thing that could be happening inside the reservation. The main use case that we would like to consider. So let's read this again. Support waiting list for each flight for up to 10% of airplane capacity. Waiting list shall be a FIFO, first in, first out. Essentially, it's like a queue, right? So it's a fair arrangement. Whoever gets there first gets the first priority to get the reservation when the flight seat becomes available. And then here's the cancellation. Cancellation of confirmed reservation shall result in automatic assignment of the seat to the first passenger on the waiting list. All right. So when we see this details of up to 10% of airline capacity, all of this is important details for the actual use case description. But at this point, I'm just trying to highlight what use cases I would like to recognize in this description. And so I'm obviously going to miss some of these details because I'm not going to place them on my diagram. So, and same thing for the waiting list should be first in, first out type of queue is also unimportant for me right now because I'm not even working with a specific data structures right now. This is just for the information. If we were actually writing the actual code, we would place this in the use case description, and we can then be sure that the programmer will be aware how to properly organize the data model to support this use case. So cancellation of reservation. So obviously the customer can call back the agent and say cancel reservation. Okay, so right now I'm focusing primarily on the agent because the way I'm reading this is that agent is my essentially primary actor. I am sure that the agent actor can make a reservation, can cancel the reservation. So in case if the reservation is canceled, I think that we're going to extend this one by saying that if the reservation is canceled and if there's if there are customers on the waiting list for this specific flight for which a reservation was canceled, then we have another extension, and we're basically just going to say remove, right? Remove from waiting list. I'm actually, shortening those sentences, remove from waiting list. I'm just saying remove waiting list, but this is not obviously removing the list. This is just removing one, one customer from the waiting list and awarding them a reservation and essentially confirming their reservation. So here, cancel reservation because the work with the waiting list for this specific flight for which the reservation was canceled is going to be happening only if there is a waiting list. I could mark it as extend, right? But remember, anytime the reservation is canceled, I will very likely to actually definitely check whether the waiting list does exist. There's a queue. Is there a queue or not? So this time I will probably make it look like remove from waiting list is always part of canceling the reservation. So I'm actually going to change this to a different type of relationship right here. Okay, and I will use the arrow that looks more like inheritance with the hollow triangular arrowhead, and I will still annotate it and say, this time say include. And include basically means more, sort of like more powerful than extend. Extend is just optional, and include is mandatory, right? So we say cancel reservation. We always gonna go and check the waiting list, and then if there's anyone on the waiting list, we will process that customer and confirm their reservation and say that you now have a real reservation. Perhaps we can notify them by email, or maybe even some sort of like automated like a robocall type of system, so that they get notified, and perhaps the customer may wish to know how to get notified. That could also include sending a text message to their phone number and so forth, right? So, but these are the two possible examples of use case extension in the first place, because we can ask the customer, do you really, would you like to get on the waiting list if there is no reservation available for the flight that you're looking for? And if they say yes, we can push a button and say, okay, let's process and put them on the waiting list. And then, of course, the other side of things, if they're already on a waiting list, we always want to give them a chance to get the actual reservation for the flight. All right, so this is what we deal with so far. So reservations can be made and canceled. Support airplanes of various types with assumption that the number of seats in a row for a single airplane type is constant, the number of rows, and all kinds of details. I will just essentially say that the airline staff obviously manages the aircraft, right? And the airline staff can also put together a schedule. So right now, what I'm picturing here is definitely, it's one of the use cases for my staff personnel. So I'm just going to say perhaps manage, right? For the lack of a better word, manage aircraft. Right? So I'm not going, I know that in real life, this is a huge area of work and things that are happening to manage aircraft records, and they have like almost like a person can have a medical record, like all the checks and everything that happens in the life cycle of the aircraft is very carefully managed and everything. So it's perhaps like way underestimated in my system, but since we're mostly focusing on the reservations and the aspect of managing the customer, for us this is just going to be one bubble that we will do some minimal work there to support the aircraft management. All right, so we proceeding with this description, and this is fine. Support for business and for tourist class sitting. So does this give me new use case? No, this is just more details that I can add to the reservation parameters, right? So when the reservation information is entered by agent, or again, I'm not quite sure if the customer can do it directly, we will see. But this just an information for the reservation use case, I think, at this point. Support payments by credit card only. So this is interesting. When the reservation actually does happen, we need to be able to go ahead and process the payment, right? So we say at this point, for the sake of simplicity, that something like this can be implemented just in a very reasonable time. We say that credit card only. So in the future, of course, there could be different types of payments, including customers could have some sort of credit in the system already, so they don't even have to pay anything. They can just be credited for their prior payments or prior being loyal customer or something, right? So, but anyway, make reservation. If reservation really does proceed and happen successfully, we can also say make payment, right? We can do make payment, and right now this tells us that we need to be able to process the credit cards. So again, the information regarding the credit card perhaps is just information for the programmer who needs to be able to ask for the credit card number, expiration on credit card, and all typical pieces of verification that you need to be able to, all the data that you need to collect to make a payment. Of course, making reservation will involve making a payment. Therefore, I think again, this will be an opportunity for me to use connection here, which looks like inheritance. So we'll basically say that anytime a successful reservation happens, perhaps sometimes it could be a waiting list situation or could be making payment. So you know what? I'll just actually redo this. Change my mind about this. I think I'll make it a weaker type of association between making a reservation and making a payment, and we'll actually try to use this weaker relationship type of thing. And again, I will say this is just an extension, because really this is only extend, right, instead of include, which is a stronger type of relationship, so that making reservation optionally, if everything goes successful, then we're gonna invoke making a payment screen or whatever portion of this use case is, and this is a good candidate for a use case extension, I think. All right, so let's take a look. Keep track of passengers on each flight for the period of 1 year, right? So does this give me a new use case? I don't think so. All I know is that when we're boarding the passenger, we know they're on board. So therefore, somewhere part of this use case, when the staff really successfully boards the passenger and let them in, so they really do take the flight, we would like to update our database with information, because if someone didn't show up for the flight, right, we don't want to, the result of ticket, reservation, a successful ticket reservation doesn't mean that the person will actually fly, right? So therefore, we don't want to put them into that type of database to keep track of the actual passengers. So therefore, this is just an information for the passenger boarding use case that the system will store information about the actual people flying for 1 year, which is fine. All right, and by the way, this information can be used for obviously security purposes, all general type of information, but also we can understand and recognize passengers and essentially give them credit in the future or discounts for future transactions for being a loyal customer, right? All right, so support scheduling of flights. That you should sense kinda that this is a new use case, right? So we're gonna put this on our diagram as yet another use case, and recognize it as a separate use case.